We are finally at the last press conference, official press conference.
Yeah, I'm doing the math in my head.
I was like,
you forgot one.
An actual press conference. The Sony, the last one, Monday night. And Mo, you love your PlayStation. I love PlayStation. I think we all love PlayStation in some way. But what was your initial reaction of the Sony press conference?
They did the same thing that they did last year, and I just feel that's the way to go for them.
What was that?
Just
Safe.
Besides safe, they showed their games.
Yeah.
They showed what they're
Let's
paying.
talking.
They didn't announce anything though as like available now in the store or anything. That was a move backwards. But it's all right.
Yeah, but you know,
They're still ahead.
They still got some stuff coming out for this year. I believe that they announced. I don't see them doing any wrong with what they did now. I mean, they showcased some gameplay that which we'll get into a little bit later. That what I was impressed with on their exclusives being the big part. You know, I liked it. I at the end of it, I did feel like they could have showed a little bit more though. For some reason, I felt like it left me wanting more. One or two.
Good thing, for better or for worse.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily negative, but you know.
My initial reaction of it was, and I actually I had to think about it afterwards. My initial reaction as what is coming out this year. I was very surprised with some of their release dates. We'll get into more detail later about some of their release dates, as in I thought they would have more for 2017, because based off what they showed last year, like, all right, you're gonna have a year and a half to get to the fall.
Yeah.
But me thinking about it, as in, I think Sony, and they've been doing this for a while, has actually changed how you make release dates for your games. Because they have so many big games, and usually it's always been, you have some games through the year, but in the past, you have those big games October, November, some in September, and the big fall games. It's always been the Halos, all that, like Microsoft, all that. And Sony was that before, I would say PS2 and maybe in some PS3.
Yeah.
But now they've changed the release schedule.
Trying to get year round.
Year round.
Yeah.
So that's when I took a step back. Because I was like, what the fuck? No, 2017. They did this last year. Last year they didn't have very many exclusives. They had The Last Guardian, and I think they had another big exclusive, but that was it. I took a step back and realized, like, they are year round. Like, they don't need to always have that big, and that was been in my mind, as in, it's always been engraved for the last 10 years, as in, if you're Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, you always have to have at least 3 big titles in the fall.
Yeah.
First party titles.
Yeah.
But the way Sony has strategized, as they created actual partnerships, it actually feels like it's a PlayStation game when it's not, which we'll get into, because I'm actually curious what you think about one of them that's gotten some negative feedback from some of the players about it. But that was my initial reaction, as in, I think they're changing the way press conferences should be.
Yeah.
I think, I forgot the guy's name at Sony. He came out twice.
Yeah, I always forget his name too.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. He came out twice, and then they let the games do the talking.
He did like the one important announcement. Okay, so this is how we want to start our press conference, 2 big games. Here's the rest of something that we're focusing on. And he talked about VR real quick.
Yep.
He did like the big the small announcement about VR. And then he came back out with, we like to end the segment with this.
Roller coaster, and then
roller coaster. And
so that was my initial reaction, as in, just keep doing what you're doing. I'm kind of disappointed about the exclusives for this year, but they have ways to fill in those gaps.
Yeah.
What about
You've
you,
already
Rich?
had exclusives this year, so you're thinking that previous mindset, they've already kind of hit
Exactly.
half of those.
And I'll get into like Horizon toward the end when we go balls deep about what I think about fucking Horizon, and damn.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. But Rich, what was your
like I said, this is actually kind of what I wanted Microsoft to do, and Sony's been doing this for the past couple of years, so I'd be dumb to say I want that and somebody's providing it and me go, yeah, but I'm still not going to buy in. That's where I said Microsoft dropped the ball. Sony's been carrying it very stable condition for the past couple of years, so my next big purchase is going to be PlayStation 4 Pro.
And Sony just announced 60.4 million PS4s sold worldwide. Hit that 60.4 million. So congrats to Sony. You deserve it. You've been rocking it with this generation. And Mo, what was... And there's probably a few. There's a lot. What stood out to you, or what several things stood out to you?
Days Gone. Starting with that. Because that was like the third game that they announced.
It was.
So they actually showcased that how their world is different. This is what one of my main concerns was, how that world is different from The Last of Us. Because they're both kind of zombie-based, but kind of not. Because, they have different meanings.
The Last of Us is a lot more story.
Right, story. But in this one, for Days Gone, they showed that the animals are actually zombies too. Like the wolves, the whole thing. And they can be infected.
Did it end with a bear?
Being a zombie.
At the end? Like a zombie bear?
Yeah. So I was like really impressed by that. I was like, not only is people becoming zombies, but also the wildlife. So how do you hunt and kill something that is going to be okay for you to eat? Like, it just started to open my mind. My head was kind of blown. Like, it's going to be kind of a really big fucked up situation. Yeah. And the way that you start out in one of the camps, I wanted to see one of the camps, just like even from the outside view, they didn't show too much, and how you go into the open world and how you can still get randomly attacked by people, or even like you get the first encounter was like the wolves that start chasing you on your bike, and how fast they are, and they're zombie wolves and they're hungry for your flesh. And he blew him in the face with a shotgun. I was like, holy shit. Like,
no, I'm hungry for your flesh.
Oh, gosh. But I thought that was really impressive. I was like, this is a game I want to buy into. I was already sold. And the storyline, I know it's going to be deep. It looks like they're taking a good direction with that.
Were you sold based off the demo from last year?
No.
Okay, so this helped you sell
because all I saw was zombies, and it was impressive that they have so many zombies on screen at once. But I want to see storyline too, because there's no point if it has a shitty storyline, and But the writing seems to be going in the right direction, and the world around is kind of selling me on it too.
I was the same. I was not sold last year. It was more World War Z, like all these fucking
that's
running
what I
through.
thought.
I'm like, that just looks fucking chaos. But with this demo that they showed, of how you can fuck with other humans, as you set that trap and all those zombies came running into them, like, that is fucking cool of how you can fuck with people.
Yeah, it's just it's different. It's really different.
But there's no release date.
No release date. No.
But other games, every single game that they showed, they said 2018, but that had nothing. I was very surprised. Do you think that has a chance for 2019 then?
Maybe they're waiting for the PlayStation. Later in September or October, the PlayStation
PSX in December.
Yeah. That's what I think a lot of their problem is. They're spreading it out because they know that E3 is not what we want it to be or what it used to be.
So
there's a different news cycle that goes on now, especially because of YouTube, the internet, all that kind of stuff. And
so it's probably going to be slated for next year. Well, my feelings, because with what they had in the mechanics in there,
for PSX.
But they want to save it for that.
Which I love.
It's the way to do it. They showed you something new that nobody else is doing. They show you some mechanics. They showed you a little bit of the world. They show you how you get around. Because we knew that he had a motorcycle, but what else is there? Like riding through the fields and everything, and you have to make stops. They force you to get off the bike because you can't do everything on your bike. Show you some of the mechanics that happens while you're on your bike, and even if you noticed, the guys that try to assault him, when they stop him, they weren't one of them screaming for help. And they turn out to be bandits. Wasn't that one of the big things? And they stop and they start jumping him, and that turns into its own sequence. That was impressive to me. I like seeing that stuff. It reminded me of Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
Like that separate stuff. Yeah. Integrate into that world. And it could happen. And
so next year will be a zombie year for State of Decay 2 and possibly Days Gone.
Yeah, possibly. The biggest thing that I loved was Monster Hunter.
I was waiting. I was trying to set up a softball pitch for you, Mo.
I lost my shit. I lost it. I was fucking screaming, this can't be Monster Hunter. They brought it back. Oh my god. Monster Hunter this. Oh, it has to be. And then when they finally showed the dinosaurs and then the dragon, I'm like, this has to be it. I'm so in the pterodactyl. I was like, this is it. And then Capcom comes out, Monster Hunter World. I was like, day one, for sure. Like, I'm already sold. Heather saw me screaming on top of my lungs. I was yelling at the TV like, "You goddamn Capcom motherfuckers! It's about time." That was me. I'm sorry, but I'm excited. That's my overall top.
What did you
winner.
think of the trailer though? For a non-Monster Hunter fanatic,
I've seen for all those things that they showcased, you can do. For one, that was integrated into the very first game that was on PlayStation 2 when it first released. The cooking, everything, all that's in there. Everything that you saw in there, the hunting of the each dinosaur that you hunt is for your armor, because you build armor out of their bones, and the dragons.
You do weapons and stuff too.
Weapons too, yeah. Because if you saw that his weapon, it had fangs on it. Yeah. It was based off of whatever you hunted before.
Like a jawbone.
And you get to select a class, and you get to build these weapons based on whatever class you want to be. It was to the T. So if you're looking at this, you're like, okay, but it's kind of open world. It is open world like that. You go into the next map, and then it's just open for you to hunt. It's awesome. I'm really excited.
I know you'd be excited for that.
Yeah.
I was very happy for you when I saw it.
I was super happy. I was like,
you don't have to buy it on the Switch, the Monster Hunter XX.
No, even if it was on the Switch, I would have. I know that they're doing the XX, but they always release it on the DS, and I don't think that's where the capabilities lie for that IP. I think the Switch could be a great buy, and I'll look into the Switch one too. I would still actually
love your Monster Hunter. I heard it's huge. It's huge overseas.
Yeah. It's a great IP. I loved it. I enjoyed it. So
TGS, it's always one of the biggest.
So yeah, Tokyo Game Show. Yeah. So I wanna invest. I'm happy for that.
So there's the two things that stood out to you. Probably Sony's so big. There's probably two things that really stood out. My first one would be God of War. And I'm glad because last year that demo was interesting. It got us excited to introduce God of War, but everyone thought it would be
escort mission.
An escort mission throughout.
We all hated Resident Evil 4.
And I called it.
That was the weakest part. Resident Evil.
I called it. I said it wasn't going to be an escort mission. It was not. I called it from the very beginning.
And with that fucking huge ass serpent at the end, their friend, and then the son can actually speak the language and know.
Yeah.
And they showed some because God of War is very action oriented, and God of War 3 is one of my favorite action games of all time. I know we talked about in a previous episode how incredible God of War 3 was. Yeah. Just with the action, the smooth, the graphics, they got it perfected on the third one, and then all the gods that you fight. And I'm glad they're changing it up. Again, with the camera view, the action, it still looks.
Well, we got the Norse gods now too.
The Norse gods, and they even talked about it a little bit.
Yeah. I'm glad the combat looks similar, but not. So I kind of like that they're changing it up a little bit. It doesn't look as fast.
It looks like in your face.
Yes.
Like it's very polished. Like within, like looking at it directly in your face. I love it.
Which after 4 God of War games of the same camera, like the camera placement, the same type of gameplay, I was ready for a change. And it said early 2018. I'm willing to bet a lot of money it's going to be March 2018. The reason why is every single console God of War, the first one came out March 2005, second one March 2007, the third one March 2010, and Ascension was March 2013. So it'll be 5 years later, all 4 of them released in March, and that's why Sony, like, I don't know why I didn't think about this during my predictions. I said God of War October, as in Sony does fantastic throughout the entire year, especially with their first party titles that they have, that huge catalog. You can't just put them all in the fall. So God of War is going to be great placement, and because they have that relationship with Far Cry 5 already with Sony. So they have that February, and then they have that in March with God of War. So God of War looked great. That's a day one. I'm fucking ecstatic.
The one thing I want to point out is also they had a little bit of snippets from the previous God of Wars, like where they had the Greek vase, and they're talking about that. If you didn't pay attention to it, but there is a Greek vase, and they're talking about Kratos in his past, and he's the witch. I don't know if she's a witch or not. It looks like a witch is telling him that he needs to be a father and tell his son about his past. And he goes, "There's nothing to do with my past." And he's like, "He doesn't know. You need to explain to him," because he's starting to get these godly things. And when I saw that trailer, I was like, "Please." Yes, that is good story writing. Explain that.
And explains him. He's not powerful. He's not a warrior, but he can speak the serpent tongue and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was a big thing that I paid attention to.
The second one that stood out to me, the second game, last year we got a more cinematic trailer of what this game could be, but this one actually gave me more of a sense, was Detroit Become Human.
Oh, right.
And I just loved how they showed that, of all the different choices that you can make and the different game experience. If all three of us play, it's going to be three very different game experiences. I hope it lives up to that potential, though. I played that before, called Quantum Break.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Mass Effect Andromeda.
Oh. I believe that's what it was, Quantum Break.
Yeah.
As in, they had that promise, as in whatever you choose before, it's going to change the TV episode, and it worked, but it did not live up to the promise as what they thought it would be. As in, I did not really have a big effect. If I choose two different choices at the end of a chapter,
and your character's barely in the TV show, it's basically the other ones who aren't even main characters.
It changes. So this one, I hope it lives up to that potential.
Yeah.
And the studio that is doing Detroit Become Human, I believe in.
I believe in too. Oh.
And I think that's going to be incredible. And I got more to see. I thought it looked great, but it's cinematic. We'll see what the actual game they showed gave me an idea. I don't think they had a release date, maybe 2018. I don't know if they did show.
I didn't see any,
but that got me excited.
They're pushing the envelope from Heavy Rain.
Yes.
That's what they're doing. And if they...
I loved Heavy Rain.
Me too. It was a great storytelling game, and even Rich would appreciate something like that too. I played him. Yeah, I mean, but...
And Fahrenheit, yeah.
Yeah, it's just the way that they're able to captivate that storyline and put kind of some control to the player. It's something that's not really done very much. You get choices in that adventure, but this changes the whole outcome of what happens.
Correct. This trailer gave me a very clear idea of what choices I make will affect the entire game world and affect the actual story and have an actual effect.
Exactly.
Of what you do.
And you get to see those effects, like, right there and then.
And I actually hope it's a short. I hope it's like a tight 5-6 hour, which is what Heavy Rain is.
Yeah.
Have a tight...
But there were so many different...
Exactly. Have a tight 5 to 6 hours, so it'll make me want to replay it
you
2 or 3 times.
Hours if you go through all 23 endings.
Correct.
Stuff, yeah.
Because it's not going to be... it's going to be like The Witcher has so many gaming, but they're similar but not.
Yeah.
Like this have drastic endings. Even there's like 5 different drastic endings of what I choose. Because Heavy Rain, if someone dies, like they're dead.
Yeah, they're gone. You
Like,
can't even,
they're not coming back. It's part of the story now.
And then it changes to the actual story in the ending and everything.
Yeah.
So.
Spoiler alert: if you haven't played Heavy Rain, it's incredible.
6-year-old game. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know what though? I'm just gonna put this out there, and you do not have to have 4K to play this game, and it's gonna look amazing. Like it already, you can see that it didn't say that it was running on 4K native. It was running on.
Well, they didn't have a new console that they're trying to hype up for $500.
It still looks incredible.
Yeah.
It looks incredible.
So those are my 2 games that stood out to me. And Rich, what about you?
Spider-Man.
There we go. Spider-Man. Enough fucking said.
Spider-Man.
Holy fucking shit.
Yeah.
That is how you do a fucking trailer and game demo.
And how you end a segment. That was nobody was expecting.
It was good for their conference, but it also fans of the character, fans of the movies. You know, it was hitting every single thing they needed. We got Miles in there. We got Mr. Negative, who we haven't really seen and stuff before. Yeah. You got gameplay, which was innovative, yet it still looked like they had learned things from like Batman Arkham series, but they were still more tactical because you didn't have web shooters and stuff.
Insomniac?
Insomniac.
Insomniac is doing it.
And Fisk was also in
and
there as well.
Osborn, one of his billboards gets blown up. Yeah,
you see all the mentions of all those
they were covering
characters.
Everything. No matter what kind of Spider-Man fan you are, and then what kind of gaming fan you are, they had you covered. I thought that was just well done all around. And yeah, there's a lot of flash events, but it doesn't matter if they're integrated right and there's not like a stutter in between.
Yeah, and it looked like it was
right part. What he said.
Did you notice how the spider sense was working?
Yeah.
When you started going and they got like the worker in that building, and he's looking around, and then you see it kind of flash where he ends up web swinging up, and that's when you see that flash event start. is that's your spider sense buzzing to be like, go to the right, kind of thing. So you're using the HUD, but you don't have like an indicator or a mini map. It was one of those like, no, my natural Spider-Man abilities tell me I need to go over here, and lo and behold, here's 6 guys I got to take down with my web shooters.
So exactly what I was pointing out is on that stutter from the events.
Yeah.
How it transitions from real time to event back to real time in the open world, and sends you into chasing this freaking helicopter all around the town. That is the integration of going from point A to point B to point C was done so smoothly that it blew my fucking mind away. I was just like, this is a Spider-Man game that I've been waiting for. Right?
That entire demo blew me away. Like, that's how you fucking do it. And then I'm okay that Last of Us 2 didn't show up.
No, I was fine with it too.
That's their closure for PSX.
PSX, yeah.
Yeah. And have the Spider-Man. And Sony, I give you a lot of credit that my wife actually wants to fucking see this trailer. Before the Sony conference even started, she asked me, how is Spider-Man? Because we were watching like a pre-show, and I showed her, Spider-Man, like, that looks great. And she actually proactively asked me, how was the Spider-Man conference? And she's like, I'm going to look it up on YouTube, because I told her it's amazing. And she actually cares about wanting to see this, which makes me a little hard and got me a little excited. And I wanted to make sweet love to her. But
he couldn't because he's Steve. Oh, right there. Don't stutter on your line, sir. My bad.
And with Spider-Man, with how much open world do you think it is, or how do you think that was just?
It felt like, I don't know. I from what I've read, it was going to be like fully open world, wasn't it? Like they have in the original.
I don't want it to be too much because there was a lot of times where that was just busy work.
Yeah.
Or the random events repeated so often. Like, like Red Dead, there would be some things that would repeat.
Yeah.
But there were ones where that is not going to repeat. It was usually the ambushes would repeat, but you saved a drifter and they actually were a victim. They weren't trying to ambush you. That's a one-time thing. You save them or you don't, and then you're done.
As you're playing Horizon, they did the same thing.
Okay.
There's not a lot of repeats, but
with the side quests.
With the side quests. So if they integrate that type of open world into Spider-Man with that, where like some of them it is important that you do interaction. That will be a great game.
We got to see how Miles fits in there, because you didn't put him in that trailer just to call out Miles Morales. There's got to be something about maybe Spider-Man dies and it gets replaced, or maybe now there's 2 Spider-Men and you do co-op, or there's all kinds of stuff that they could easily play in there.
I don't know if it can handle, but that might be something.
But that was in the start of the comics. He was showing Miles Morales how to be Spider-Man. And
in the new continuity, the Ultimate Universe, Peter's already dead.
Yeah. Where we're going with that, but you never know.
Obviously,
there's so many possibilities
too. Clearly that.
There's so many possibilities.
Absolutely, Spider-Man got us all excited.
Hyped. Yeah.
Is there a second thing that stood out, or you just Spider-Man enough said?
Spider-Man was enough of a breakthrough, but like I said, they did a good enough job of throwing stuff out there that was quality. They were on point. They didn't bore me. They were wall to wall. We'll get to the disappointments because there are some disappointments. So my one follow-up would be Undertale, which is not exclusive, but it is new to consoles. That's exactly what I expected from the Xbox Arcade, which doesn't exist anymore.
It's Undertale,
and it's also gonna tie into my disappointment. But
what is Undertale?
It's a independent RPG, but it's somewhat connected to the Earthbound universe from the old NES days. Yeah. So it's a possible sequel, but it's not necessarily tied in because they don't own the IP, but there's things that lead you to believe that it's a unofficial sequel to it. And it's just an inventive RPG where there's so many different ways that it can go, and it's the old school, like the original Final Fantasy kind of stuff is how a lot of it's set up. They play with that mechanic a little bit, but the storytelling especially, when you get to the end and you kind of realize, like, the way I was playing the game was exactly the point they were trying to teach me that I shouldn't be that way, and you spent the whole time, and then you go back and play it the other way, and you're like, oh, fuck. I thought I was the savior because I was destroying all the monsters. I was supposed to save all the monsters because they were all victims.
You asshole.
That was fucking awesome.
You asshole.
And the game's been out for, like, 8 years. What the fuck, man?
Like Braid.
It's like it's one of the number one Let's Plays on YouTube is people doing walkthroughs of Undertale, so.
All right, Enmo, what was your disappointment for the Sony press conference?
It's not such a big disappointment, but it is there. Some of the key titles for the VR that they showcased, I felt they could have shown a little bit more of an extended show. I did see one of the games that they're going to use for the gun. Did you see that? The
Bravo Team?
Yeah, Bravo Team. That was one of the games that I saw utilizing the gun a lot. But I wanted to see more. I want to see somebody actually using the actual gun for that game. I mean, it would make perfect sense. I wanted some explanation on some of the VR mechanics that they were putting on for some of those games. That would be my disappointment right there. And I'm not a VR owner. This is just from
No, but
outlook
understanding
perspective.
what they're trying to do
Yeah,
could be a sales point.
outlook perspective. Because if I'm supposed to, he has a VR. I don't have one, but this is stuff that I would think of if I was an owner.
No, but I'll be honest. I'm interested in VR, but what I'm seeing is the trend is the cheap heat kind of way of doing things is they do a lot of horror games because feeling like you're in that world and there's a jump scare, it's an easy way to sell immersion, but it's sloppy immersion. It's cheap, lazy immersion.
It is. I didn't see very horror games for the PlayStation VR at all.
It was announced Paranormal Activity. It was already released, but they're working on it for PSVR. I'm actually really excited, but that's that cheap. So Paranormal Activity is that cheap.
But
Resident Evil is not that actual
that's-
game, but Paranormal Activity is that, I'm putting you in a house, let's do some cheap scares, which I'm excited for. I want, but it is that tech demo, let's get that cheap.
So I was excited to see action games for VR, but then I wanted to see how they're integrated. Like, I don't want to see, how some people, you just bought the gun, show that. Bravo Team, I want to see somebody actually utilizing, saying, oh, you used the gun for this, look, blah, 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 blah. So that's what I wanted to see, and I didn't see that. So that was probably my disappointment was for the VR crowd, because I know people purchased it. And it's great that
think about me, man.
They are, I mean, they're focusing on the VR titles, but I want to see them show it off. Show it off completely, so people are sold on it. So yeah.
And that was actually my disappointment. And I'm a huge VR. I'm on board 100% VR. I love my PSVR. But I was a little disappointed in what they did show. I got really excited when they showed the VR helmet. I got really excited. My God, here it is. I'm ready. This is what I'm waiting for. What games am I going to get next after Farpoint? They did show the Impatient. That was more of the cheap scare. I think the Impatient, let's put you in a scary situation.
Yeah, in the mental hospital. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But it may have a good story.
It got me excited. Something I would pick up. Bravo Team, because I played Farpoint and I know what that gun is capable of doing in a game.
Yeah.
I am ready to use that in a different game. I think Bravo Team would be great. But the only thing, Star Child, I don't know what that would do in a VR.
Didn't it seem like it was like side scrolling, and then it goes into, because the robot picked it up, and are you putting it on, and then now you're the robot? We need to see more of that game. What is that?
Has it attached to the headset?
I have played, I know on the demo, they have a third person perspective where you actually see the entire land, and it's more of a point and click of where you walk, but you can see the entire land, and it's all in 3D in the VR virtual world. And there's another one on their PlayStation disc as well, which is another third party. You can jump around. So seeing that potential, what it can be, but I just didn't see that in Star Child and Across. But it can work if you see your character, because you can see the entire world of what's going to be happening. But I didn't get excited. Final Fantasy 15, Monsters of the Deep.
Yeah, that was a little awkward for me. I was like, what?
It was.
Everybody loves to fish.
It was a demo.
It was a demo, yeah.
It was a demo of what they can do.
I think that's the same as the Lynx crossbow training.
Which was sold. It was $20, I believe. Oh, wait, because I actually bought...
I think it was 40, wasn't it? Because it was the
with
attachment and
the attachment, so I did get a link. But what?
I remember we were all thinking Zelda was coming out, and I was like, wait 6 more months.
Skyrim VR. I am not sure if I want to get that in VR, because I'm actually afraid that I might never come back.
So, just to touch base on your little Skyrim VR, just so you know, you can add mods to the PlayStation Skyrim VR.
Yeah, but they're still moderated mods.
Yeah, but it's
So
still
the fun mods you can't really enjoy.
there's still
There's
some
no Macho Man dragons in there. That's all I'm saying.
no, but there's still some really good mods out there for that game. Even for PlayStation, some stuff that will big vast improvements on your gameplay.
No, I'm actually
Just so you know.
terrified that I.
So so you might get lost. I don't know. I'll have to come in and
I
unplug
won't come
you.
back. I will be in the matrix. I'll be jacked in and never come back. I love the Elder Scrolls. I always believe you're either Elder Scrolls or Fallout. Like you're like pro one. You can like them both. I enjoy them both, but you're one like you love one over the other. And I love Elder Scrolls, Oblivion and Skyrim, and I love VR and putting that in Skyrim. I'm happy it's on the Switch. That's fantastic, but I'm not gonna play it or the enhanced edition that they did, the special edition they did last year on the PS1 and PS4 and Xbox One. But put it in VR. That's a game changer to me, and I'm thankful for my own sake and my own safety that I might not buy it, but I'm glad that's coming to PSVR for Skyrim. But with that, I expected more. Some more titles
For the VR.
to get more excited for VR, but I'm glad they actually had a section for it, because if it didn't, then I would.
Yeah, they could have just done the game floor and said, "Oh, you have to experience it."
Yeah, but to show it that they are backed, they're backing behind it. They're like, oh, we released this, and we'll see what happens.
And we don't know if there's some more surprises to come
Yeah.
because of the show floor, but who knows?
But that's my disappointment. What about you, Rich?
There's no indie section. Like Undertale's from the show floor is how I know that, and the company that makes it put out their own little thing. That wasn't in the conference, so.
Yep, and they usually do a little bit of something indie, and they didn't.
Yeah,
You're right.
It was actually kind of bothersome, especially as I was on that train of you're doing all the stuff that I used to say that's why Microsoft is so innovative, and this year you kind of scale back a little bit, but you're still on the right path. So.
And Mo, I want to know what you think about this. Destiny 2, all those exclusives for the PS4 of Destiny 2. They have an exclusive strike, exclusive gear, other exclusives for the.
They were doing it for Destiny 1 already. I don't know where to go with that, because even the people that are going to be playing Destiny on Xbox, and they're excluded from just these particular
That strike.
strikes. I mean, when they included it in the PlayStation version, just if whoever has an Xbox, there was 2 or 3 exclusive strikes for the PlayStation on the first Destiny, and they were tied in with the story. So I felt like those people missed out on that.
Yeah, because we didn't get story on Xbox.
Like the third iteration of the actual DLC,
Yeah.
they started including storyline play like strikes. So stuff that had to do with the actual world, and so that kind of bums me out. Like I feel that those type of strikes should be available to everybody, and that's just me being
Well,
fair.
you're already on the fence about Destiny anyway.
Yeah,
So.
so it just I understand that if you're a PlayStation player, that's a way to get you to sell PlayStation systems, but if it's a strike and it does connect to the story, that should already be in the game for everyone, not just.
So do you think that's a game changer with all those exclusives that they?
I mean, it's a disappointment for me, but yeah, I mean, I can get people.
You really got the benefits from it. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I get benefits from it, but I like to see both sides of the spectrum. Like.
And that's where I go with Sony. Like, oh, you don't have very much first party exclusives, but I think they're counting Destiny 2 as
Somewhat, yeah.
a somewhat PlayStation
an
exclusive.
advantage.
Especially if it expands your game like that then you're missing out.
And probably the install base on the first one.
You're basically missing out on a whole 30 minutes of an hour strike for, if you don't have if you're going Xbox. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that.
And then Call of Duty 2 is going to have map packs exclusive to PlayStation, like first 30 days, more than likely. But they just had a trailer. I was very surprised they didn't have someone actually go on stage like they usually do. They just showed that trailer and next.
That was it, yeah.
I would like to say this. I'm actually impressed
With
Call of Duty. And I would never say that. Like, I was impressed with the first and second game. This game looks very different.
But that's been more of the same for a while, yeah.
Yeah, it looks very different. And even Heather was like, "This doesn't look like Call of Duty." I'm like, "This was what Call of Duty was like a long time ago." And
yes,
and she goes
before they lost their identity.
She even told me this looks different, and she hates Call of Duty. She hates it completely. But she watched the trailer and she was like, "Wow, this is impressive. This is different. It looks. Are you gonna get this?" And I go, "I need more. I'll have to see it." You know, so.
And what about? Oh, thank you.
Sorry, I saw the cord being pulled. I was like, "Oh."
And I did not play this because I did not have a PS2, but I think it got remastered in PS3. Shadow of the Colossus.
Okay.
It looked good.
Were you excited?
Looked good. We've already played
You
it.
didn't cream in your pants like some
I'll buy
people.
it. I'll tell you that much.
It's good for people who didn't understand that originally. Like, that'd be a day one pickup for you, I think.
I have never
think
played
really
it
So-
before.
It's very
I've heard
good, very innovative.
all-time classic.
It's beautiful, but I've already been through that journey.
When nobody's ever who hasn't played that game.
Yeah.
Me.
Exactly. That's
I don't know what it's about.
What
I just know there's 16 colossi. And
What-
that's
their
it.
shadow.
What do you think is the premise of the game? Do you just fight bosses and that's it?
I've just heard I know there's a girl in there somewhere. I don't know if she's dying or dead or something's up.
Beauty kind of thing.
Yeah. That you have to kill these 16 colossi to save her.
Okay.
In some way, shape, or form.
So you know the storyline, some of the storyline, but a lot of people think that it's just boss fights. That's it. There's more to that game than that. There's this actual storyline.
Because that's all it is those 16 creatures in the
It's the
entire...
easiest way to sell people on it, but there's so much other stuff that's kind of going on. But it's not spoon-fed to you. It's not... They don't look to the camera and do those marketing speeches. So.
And it makes you want to go out to that world to discover what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
Like, it's open world, and you have choices to make, where to go and what to do first. That's based on what to do until you get used to the mechanics. I want to play the HD remake. I'm the person that will buy into it, and I still have the PlayStation 2 version and my PlayStation 2. I can go in there and play it anytime I want. But this looks really polished and good. I want to see the HD.
I forgot about that on my disappointments. That's a good point because it does look beautiful. But that was one of my disappointments when I was thinking about it earlier, is how they were saying backwards compatibility is not a focus for them. They're the kings of remastering shit. And I know it's not quite the same as backwards compatibility, but it's one of those, our past is a legacy, not a burden. We need to carry that
They've
forward.
been doing those remasters.
And that's the problem, though, is that they understand that, but they don't want to implement it where it'd be easy and cheap for most of their customer base. They want to hit you for another $40 or $50 purchase every year.
Yeah.
Which is how I was able to play God of War 1 and 2 before 3, because I didn't have a PS2 at all. So I had the PS3, I knew God of War 3, like, it looks
and
amazing.
Sometimes that's good because they translate it in the second collection. They have the PSP games and stuff, which was a good way to get that stuff in there, or they're doing that with Kingdom Hearts. But then again... Another disappointment, they announced another fucking Kingdom Hearts collection of, you just did 2 of these, and now you're doing the same thing, but there's a new cutscene. I don't want to keep buying the same games that are already 10 years old 3 times in 2 years, and I'm still waiting on the 3rd game. That's ridiculous.
But,
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. I mean, that's a keynote for a lot of people too. But then again, when it comes down to getting these games, when are they going to play them? Like, they want to see something new. A lot of I feel like a lot of gamers complain about having backwards compatibility and all this, but they don't even use it.
They were saying.
So I mean, like, I don't want to be like the.
But see, here's where I would argue, because we know how much of a system seller and how much of a point of contention and stuff the NES Classic was. That was exactly what we're kind of advocating.
PS1 Classic.
Except that was a brand new purchase. That wasn't him just being able to access the stuff he's already paid for.
Yeah. But the Shadow of the Colossus HD just looks a little bit more way polished than what it was.
No, but I'm an advocate of, if I purchase the thing and I own it outright, and we can get into secondary sources, pawn shops, GameStop, that kind of thing. Yeah. But let's say I buy it digitally off the PlayStation or the Microsoft Store. I should own that, and just because I can't go out and buy the hardware anymore doesn't mean that, hey, I should be able to play Pilot Wings from the 64 even though I don't have it. But if I have the Virtual Console, I put in my gamer tag and it goes, yep, you showed that you had bought it. Here's your proof of purchase. So
that's
download it for free or get it for $2.
That's why one of the reasons why I applauded Bethesda for when they released the Skyrim HD. Like
And, yeah.
they did it for free for anybody who already had the game and they can see in their system.
Well, on Steam.
On Steam, but because
But
they
not
can,
for-
because
But they can see where
they
your
can see
money
the
went.
purchase. They can see your purchase. Like, oh, you purchased this. Okay, here you go. And it was already the pre-download was already ready for me. So, I, as far as that goes, that's a different iteration. But yeah.
And do you think it's a problem that these are the only exclusives that I know? Is Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, August 22nd. Horizon Zero Dawn, the Frozen Wilds is also at the end of this year, which, if you have not played Horizon Zero Dawn, and if you have a PlayStation, fucking buy it.
Yeah.
Go get it. I think that's the only main exclusives that I know for the year. Gran Turismo, they did announce, not on the press conference, but
Yeah,
on
it's on the ground
the
floor.
show floor, they did announce it's going to happen this fall as a racing game.
So for Sega, even though it's Sega, they did announce Yakuza, the very first remake of HD for the first game, because it ties into the next one that they're bringing out. That releases this year in October. Yakuza, so it's the very first Yakuza being remade with the new graphics that Sega's working
But
with.
also number 6.
What was
numbers-
Zero? Would that come out this year?
Zero was the
Yeah.
prequel. Yeah, that came out this year. So Yakuza 1, the very first game
Was
that they
Persona
started-
5 Sega?
Yes, Sega Atlas, yeah. So Sega's releasing the very first game HD remade for everybody who didn't play it back on PlayStation 2 to tie in with number 6 that comes out next year. So that releases this
I
year.
bet you they'll do the same with Persona. Put at least 3 and 4 on.
Yeah, and they could do that just because those games were, it's been, they have years. So they got like 5 to 6 years apart from
Doesn't
each
matter.
game.
If you charge $30 or $40 and you're like, hey, guess what? Here's 200 hours of content.
Yeah, as an actual like
Pay 40
collection and
bucks.
everything, yes. And also Sega did announce that for Yakuza the first game, they're adding some add-ons that they did not include in the first game because they thought it was too controversial. And since they got pushed for it, you're getting all that content too. As far as release go, we did get that announcement from Sega. I think it was today actually that they announced what they were releasing for the actual time. So Sega's doing some smart things. They're not releasing everything. They're doing the show floor thing and just announcing games as they come. So Yakuza was their first one because they want to release 6 for next year, early next year, and the first game I think it was November, I think release date for that. So that's the only exclusives that I know of.
And Rich, do you see a problem with that release schedule that Sony has?
No, it makes sense. I like the year-round.
I
And
do
it's
as
like
well.
that.
Once
And
I was
that's-
able to take a step back and stop being so fucking old school.
And it's because of this marketing, and because they
Yeah.
are all into the holiday sales, but
Yeah.
you forget that your market is usually people with a lot of free time. So that is a lot of times it's younger people or students because they don't have a 9 to 5. They have very segments, weekends off kind of thing. It makes sense to cater towards those people. And guess what? In the summer, they don't have shit to do. In the middle of spring, they don't have a lot to do, or if they do, they're probably not gamers anyways. They're already, they're getting drunk on the beach. They're not always the biggest gamers.
It's a rough life. So I'm okay. They have the exclusives, and it gives me a little break as well for the other companies that does have, those fall games. And that's fine. I'll play God of War in March. I'm okay.
I'm
I'll
down
be
with
playing
that
an
too.
incredible game.
Well, and it goes,
Horizon that came out in February.
You've got a point about the mindshare thing. If you don't want everybody piled up, but just because you put, I got 3 titles in this last week of October, and then the first week of November I only have 2. To me, that's 5 in the same 2-week period.
Yeah.
That you're doing that. And when they align it like that, that's bad. But all of a sudden, you put Far Cry in February and God of War in March, and then every month you got a AAA level title that's coming. It doesn't overwhelm your pocketbook. It gives you something to do, and it gives you space so that you're not always backlogged with 15
And
titles.
actually enjoy the game. Like Horizon, I'm going to actually sit back and... Because Zelda, I rushed through Breath of the Wild just to get to fucking Mass Effect.
How much do you hate that?
Yeah, right.
But I get to go back. I was waiting for the DLC. I'll get into that in the next... As I get back into it with the DLC. We'll see about that. But that's the Sony... What about... We'll end on this. Are you disappointed at all about Last of Us 2 was not shown?
No.
Not at all.
Because they fucking ended with Spider-Man was great, and I love with the PSX, they're making that more of a big deal.
Yeah.
As in it's still secondary, but I guess we can talk about Raw and SmackDown. With wrestling terms. As in, the Raw is the E3, PSX is the SmackDown.
Yeah.
And they try and bring the
But
talent
all of a sudden,
over
you start
SmackDown.
watching SmackDown Live, and
Yeah,
it's programmed better, and they got more focus, and they're not throwing a bunch of garbage, and it's shorter, it's tighter, it's more focused.
And you own the news story.
Yeah.
You own December. You have your PlayStation fans join you and play on the floor. Because I went to the first one that was here in Las Vegas, and be with those players. You have that hour-and-a-half press conference. They showed Uncharted 4 at the press conference I went to. Last year they did Last of Us 2. And I love your idea of Days Gone. Have a release date, because make PSX something that we need to see. And they did VR as well. They showed more titles.
I feel like since Bloodborne wasn't shown, I could see that being over there too.
Yes,
because I
was
thought
gonna say
Bloodborne
that.
was going to be shown.
Yeah.
You know, it was one of my big thoughts. I thought they were going to release it, but you know, it's okay. That's fine. What they gave me was enough. I felt.
It's a fantastic press conference, like last year.
Stay the course.
Stay the
They
course. So that's our reactions to the Sony press conference. Please let us know in the comments below what your reactions were to the conference.